Approval of minutes. Let's do that firstly.
I got one small thing. I'm gonna let Jennifer catch up here though. One correction. I want to make a correction.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so if you go to page 3,
Okay.
and it's the it's the last full paragraph. And I'm just gonna read the quote. Dollars to the city as the cost of all of these things, such as personnel costs, administrative costs. Dollars to the committee needs to focus on water conservation, and that is the point of the policy. Banner disagreed with Fowler, saying there was a cost. That should be there. There is not a cost.
Yes,
Pointing out that
page
the-
3. Okay.
Yeah, pointing out that the only relief for sewer charges is when the water does not impact the city's sewer system, so that does not cost the city anything.
Right.
So not, before the quoted cost there should say not a cost.
Good. It's true. It's a good point.
Yeah, just
Not.
I'm good.
and that makes me good. So
Okay. Do we need a second on that minutes change?
Who made the motion
Doug?
did I? I will though.
Oh,
Okay, I move to approve the minutes
as amended?
as amended,
A second.
second.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, public comment. I understand we have public comment from Jan. Like to stand up and introduce yourself and go ahead with your public comment, please.
So I'm Jan Subert Ormond, and this letter is also from my husband, Wes Ormond. PO Box 778, Cannon Beach, Oregon, 97110. Dear Public Works Committee members, thank you all for your hard work on the utility relief request policy. We're grateful that you and city staff are mindful of conserving our Cannon Beach water whenever and wherever possible, and that you generally encourage residents and visitors to be mindful as well. At last month's April 19th meeting, we agreed with your majority vote for option number 2, the way it was first passed, with a $1,000 reimbursement limit. However, we're concerned with the amendment made after the first vote to add a discretionary possibility that would be available to the Public Works Director and the City Manager. The public be able to access the information regarding these cases. Cannon Beach water belongs to all of us in the Cannon Beach community. It is the responsibility of all of us to be good stewards. In our view, the amendment to your original decision leaves too much discretion to our city staff, not only the staff we have now, but also the city staff in the future. We need to have more explanation for how this situation would work and how the accountability for this discretionary decision would be monitored. Our water deserves our utmost attention regarding this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you.
Any discussion on that?
I think during public comment, it would just get the comments and then
Okay,
in good of the order, we can go over that.
very good. Thank you.
Any other public comments that were asked in advance, Jen?
I'll turn it over to Karen for the discussion of public works status.
Well, yay, yesterday they wrapped up the draft budget presenting to the budget committee and council. Everything went really well this year. I went first instead of last. Normally they put public works last because it's the more laborious budget, but I was lucky enough to go first this year. And it was really great. Council and budget committee was very complimentary of what public works, the committee and our staff has achieved this past year, especially. Pretty much everything we asked for in the budget, they granted. Yesterday, they augmented I won't say augmented, they adjusted our parks budget a little bit by adding more funds in our arborist bucket so that we could have Jeff involved in more tree assessments if needed. That was the only change that they made to the public works budget. So all in all, this so far so good. They haven't actually voted to adopt it yet, but that will come in a future council meeting, right,
I
Jen?
think it's June 14th,
June 14th.
Okay, June 14th. Okay.
the second meeting in June. for
Yeah.
council.
So that's the same meeting that the relief request was bumped to because our other agenda was so full. They asked if we could bump it. So that meeting, I've got a lot of prezos to do. I'll be presenting them the phase 1 RFP award that I want to make for the seismic valves to be on each of our tanks. So we'll have a bid opening May 19th for that. When phase 2 gets issued, that's when we'll have our review committee. And I'll be calling on some of you that agreed to help in that process. So that June 14th meeting I'll be presenting that as well as the utility relief request draft to council. We'll see how that goes, see if they want to change it, amend it. Janae's agreed to be there. She was able to be there for the June meeting, even though we had to reschedule it. And we got the generator in place at Matanuska Pump Station yesterday. So that looks great. Nice to have a nice shiny new generator. And so now that's on pause and O'Brien will get the walls up, the cover that they're putting over for us. It's going really well. The concrete company did an excellent job pouring the concrete. So the walls will go up, and once the cover's on, then our next phase at Matanuska is to get everything from the little existing electrical hut, if you will, transferred off of those walls onto the walls of the building they put over the entire pump station. And that little building will cease to exist. So we have our new control panel. It has arrived, so that's in our possession. So that will be installed. The control panel that's there is the original control panel from when that pump station was first built. So we're beyond the life cycle of that control panel. So it'll be nice to have the new flight panel like what's in some of the other pump stations. So we're in good shape on Matanuska. That's progressing really well. Some of you may hear about some stairs at the bottom of Center Street that are not safe. The issue is beyond the city's vegetation line, and Trevor and I met with state parks. They have to give us direction on how they want to address the situation, but some of the surrounding homeowners have made a makeshift handrail going down that ends, starts where our stairs end and introduce people down onto the beach. There's definitely something needed there, but we have to address the fact that the makeshift handrail that's been put up there is not stable. It creates a safety issue. So if you hear something about that, know that we're working with state parks to get our direction on what they want to do. There'll be something done out there. They have to decide they feel is acceptable. So that's being worked on. The guys, the roads team are in the middle of patching today. So you'll see some of them out. This is just the patching. We've already finished all of our paving for the year. So anywhere where we've made cuts in the road to repair water lines, sewer lines, anything, they're patching those areas. Let's see, what else?
The park shed's getting finished. I don't know if you guys have seen the upgrade we did to the park shed. It looks great. If you get an opportunity, stop by. Same with Matanuska. Make it a point to drive down to Matanuska,
Good.
Stephanie in, and take a look at that good work that we're doing down there. It's really
Yeah.
positive, and it's gonna be a good project when we're
It's gonna
done.
look really nice.
Yeah,
Pretty much it. I mean, we've just been neck deep in budget. So anything that's been in motion, the guys were just managing while we've been able to
Mhm.
focus on budget. So that's pretty much where we are.
Yeah, I saw that paving where it's right before a stop sign on Spruce coming up here. So at least you got to be real slow,
Yeah,
but it's good.
Yeah.
Get it all done.
they're doing it. We finally got a break in the weather and they're scrambling to take advantage of that. It's
And
just
also I see all the tree limbing going on with Pacific
Pacific
Power
Power. Mhm.
and everything. And I talked to the person yesterday and it was very nice, you know, how they come in
Yeah,
and they also are very in tune to not damage any trees.
right. They've been doing a pretty good job. There was an issue brought up with coffee with the counselor yesterday that I have sent to our account rep and the foreman that is over the crew that's doing this. Pacific Power contracts that work out. It's typically the same crew that does it every year. So they're not only familiar with our community, but what's expected of them as far as no tree topping, things like that.
Right.
They're not hack artists that, I mean, these guys have some experience with tree trimming and they know the proper way to do it. But there were some concerns voiced yesterday. So I'm pursuing that with Pacific Power. Outside of that incident, it's been going well. You guys will notice how sagging the lines are. They're coming back and having to tighten those. That
Yeah.
just shows you how much pressure we're on the lines from all the tree limbs.
Correct.
And that's what causes issues when we have high winds. That's sometimes what causes our outages or causes the poles to come down with the weight of the trees, especially when we get snow. And so that's what they're trying to mitigate.
Yeah, the lady that was like the foreman, she was very educated. You know, she used to work for the, forest industry and everything. And she said that they actually review this in depth every 3 years. So
Yeah.
the cycle.
Yeah, they don't typically come out every year. They'll come out and address some problematic issues, but they're not doing what they do right now every single year. It's every 3-year cycle.
Yeah, it's good.
But if something comes up where we've had spurt of growth or there's a tree that has come down, they'll come in and they'll address just that location. But they don't have to do what they're doing now every year. It doesn't grow that
It's good to
fast.
know we have that going on. It's really-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that easement with Pacific Power, by the way, has been in place for years. And so it was established a long time ago about kind of the rules of the road. And it's just a matter of managing that, making sure that they're doing and abiding by what's in the easement agreement. So
Great.
let's see. Now that budget is done, the real focus will be getting our phase 1 and phase 2 water resiliency moving forward. Like I say, award those RFPs and really start getting our work plans put together for this new budget year. That's
In regard to the budget, based on what I'm hearing, you submitted your proposal, your wish list. Sounds like just about everything came through.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, they did not deny me anything that I had asked for, but I'll be honest with you, I was pretty conservative this year. Back in COVID, you'll remember that I was asked to pull my operating budget way down and just do
Okay.
the minimum to keep the lights on, take care of the infrastructure, but don't do anything extra, not right now during COVID. We were really trying to watch every penny. And we did that. And so I've held the team to that for 2 years. And we've been able to maintain sufficiently. We haven't starved anything that needed attention. We didn't deprive anything that needed attention. And it's allowed us to drive some efficiencies, I think, in just a reminder that the guys really need to be cognizant when they spend money. Do we really need it? Is this something that could be deferred, or is it really something that needs to be done now? Each team has budget responsibility under their own, department, if you will: roads, water, wastewater, recycle, parks. And they've done a great job managing their budgets. So typically when they come to me and say, hey, I'd like to buy X tool that we need, or I really like to do this, I say, how are we paying for it? Where's it coming from? What bucket is it coming out of? So they've gotten really good at their budgets, and they have much more skin in the game, I should say. I mean, in years past, I think the guys spent until the director said, stop, we don't have any more money. I think now the guys are learning what each bucket represent and how much they have to work with over the years. They really didn't have a reason to understand the budget before until the director said, you're out of money.
That's great. For my prior life, that's best practices.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely fantastic
Yeah.
to know that,
And-
because you know that we're not going to have, just anything sitting in there.
Yeah. And we go over budget in the staff meeting. They each get a copy of their budget. When Lori gives me the budget, we break it down and give the guys each of theirs. And then when we come to a staff meeting, say, okay, you guys are trending pretty good, or you're running hot in this category. Let's watch this, And so they've done a fabulous job in the last 2 years, especially. And so this year, when we talked about the budget as a team, and I tell the guys what we're going to be asking for, they come to me with their, what I call the Christmas list. And they have a list throughout the year, Trevor and the team does. And so if we are get an opportunity for extra funds from feds or a grant or anything else, I'll say, okay, if I got this money, what do you want to spend it on? And they need to have this list ready to go. Some of these things come to us pretty quick, so you got to be ready to pull the trigger. So,
And I think the one thing we got to caution is inflation.
yeah,
Inflation may hit us, and
absolutely.
we have to say, okay, then that way it's, if you go at 8% over, but it was inflation, that is a
Yeah.
acceptable
That's right.
reason.
Right. So the bottom line is I can't overrun my budget. So even with inflation, the bottom line has to be intact. So that just means we have to underrun something else to offset what's happened with oil that's caused asphalt to go up.
Yeah.
Fuel, diesel and gas for our trucks have gone up. Materials and supplies have gone up. So when I went to the budget this year, basically our operating budget stayed static with the exception of fuel, okay, diesel and gas for our generators, trucks, materials and supplies, and that was across the board. So even in parks, what Joe and Kirk has experienced with chips for the playground, fertilizers, all that's gone up. And then you get into water and wastewater where pipe, any metals, aluminum to steel has shot way up. Post for signposts. So every time somebody says, I need a sign, it triggers a thought in me. I hear dollar signs, so not only for the post, but then the metal sign that we're ordering. And so all the materials and supplies. So I took an average, I've been tracking this all year long. I took out the anomalies because there's some anomalies we've seen. Some of the metal materials, we paid 3 times what we paid a year ago. Also with cedar siding, almost 4 times what we paid just a few months ago. And so you have to pull those out, you take an average. So our materials and supplies, about 36% increase of what we experienced this year. And then fuel, I stayed conservative on that. I feel from what the analysts say, I feel like after the summer, we'll see a slight dip in fuel. So I did a 20% increase in fuel. That was same for gas and diesel. And so I'm hedging my bets on that. I can't predict any more than what the analysts are saying the market's going to do. Sometime they're right, sometime they're not. So for operating, that's pretty much what I did. That's the increases that I pointed out to the budget committee and council that they saw across the board in my budget. If we don't need it, no, we don't spend it, great, we don't spend it. But those are the areas where we felt pressure this year.
So the inflation monster aside, which I think it is a monster, from a macro level, coming out of COVID, kind of back to normal in terms of a budget so you can execute your priorities.
I really feel that we can stay to that, just keep the lights on type of an operating budget. The only time that we fall outside of that is what happened at Well Park, which is automatically considered a emergency. So if I needed the assistance, obviously council's going to give me that. But outside of something like that, we've been able to take good care of the infrastructure with that, keep the lights on, nice, tight, efficient operating.
That's what I'm trying, but we're being able to keep the lights on this year. Is that, am I hearing? you right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
We're back to whatever normal is.
Yeah, there was nothing deprived or neglected, or we had to say we can't do that this year.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's good. And then as far as outside operating budget, all of our capital projects, we've talked about what those are. They were in agreement with that. Most of those projects are being funded by the 1% low interest loans. A few of them were funded by the utility rates that we had revenue already on the table. That was both of our generators, by the way. And so we've done really well. We've done really well. And so I think we're in good shape going into next year. I don't foresee anything that, we said, gee, we wish would have got money for that. And they denied us. Not at all. I think the team's happy with what we were given. We asked, they gave it to us. And I think it's the max of what this team can do.
Well, I also think it's kudos for credibility.
Yeah.
You don't get that unless they have credibility and your integrity.
I like to start each year off thanking the
Yes.
council and the budget committee for the money they gave us and then show them what we did with that money. And this year we just had an incredible story. I mean, these guys really just busted buns, Trevor and team, full credit. I just bring the money and they just get it done. And they did a great job this year. And that'll be highlighted today when we do our luncheon, thanking the guys. But I just went down the line and just told the council and the budget committee that we appreciated the money. We appreciated the fact they trusted us with the driving the efficiency and what we've spent the money for. We showed them all the grants and the funding that we chased and brought to the table to the city, which reduces the magnitude of utility rate increases that we have to do, other than the debt service for those loans. If we didn't have the loans, the locals would have been paying 100% of that. And so that's the contribution Public Works has made to the city. And I'm real proud of this team for that. Every single one of the folks on this team contributed to that, all the way to the admin that had to manage all that paperwork. It was a good story this year.
Okay.
And so, again, I appreciate what they gave us for the coming year. I think we're staged to have a really incredible year this year too. But I also let them know that this year was the year we realized our maximum. I pushed this team really hard. And I did that thinking this was a spurt that we were going to get through and that then things would settle down a little bit, but not so much, because we got the money that we asked for in the loans. Now that means there's a lot of projects behind all this money, and I asked for help. I asked for an extra body to be able to help us do that. And I was given that.
You were, okay.
Yes.
And at some point, whatever is appropriate in the meeting, I'd like to just kind of know where we stand on trying to replace Kelsey.
Yeah, that job got posted. Jen posted the vacancy for me. And so the first review, I'll leave it open until it's filled. I did not have a deadline on it. The first review of candidates will be June 3rd. And we'll see what we get. We'll do interviews and such. And the same with the body that will help us with all these water resiliency projects and our other capital projects. I've asked for a project manager / engineer. And so this person will take all of those projects and oversee those projects. So that my guys in the field are not having to do that plus their regular job.
So like a
Same with Trevor.
program manager
Yes.
type project manager. And I did sit through the 4-hour
Mm-hmm.
council meeting, and that was brought up, and I thought, hey, that's a great idea
Yeah.
to have that as a project leader. That's good.
Trevor and I are trying to do that when we have engineering company engineer something for us. And we're trying to lay out the design and what it's actually going to look like. We're trying to act as that. And it's too much. We cannot do the regular job. Plus that you could do it for a short period of time. We did that this year, just to try to get all those loans nailed down. You've got to kind of design and have a vision for something and pre-engineer it to a certain extent so that you know how much money you're chasing. And so that takes our time, that takes the leads from each of the teams. If it's water, wastewater, whatever it is that the project concerns, they're the subject matter experts. So this is why the vacancy that we're trying to fill, the person not only has to be a good project manager so that they can manage schedules, the budget associated with that project, but also all the reporting that has to go to the feds because this is federal money that we got. And so milestones through that project, we're having to send all kinds of reports to them. And we just simply can't keep up.
Oh, yeah, no, it kind of like in a way, it's great because you become system on legs.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is when you're gone, the system's gone.
Yeah.
So you get the project manager in there and it's going to be much more efficient.
Yeah. The
You're gonna be
wheels
ahead of the
keep
game.
turning. Yeah.
That's great.
I mean, Trev and I, just like Bruce and many of our other leaders, Chief, the same way. He was down people. He hasn't taken a vacation and he's working street shifts, and that's us. We can't take time off because the punishment of that is everything comes to a stop and we come back, it's overwhelming and we're off course. And so we deny ourselves that time away because we don't want things to fall apart. And so something's got to give.
And same thing with Bruce. I mean, from the 4-hour meeting, he hasn't taken a vacation for a long time.
Yep.
And so that's good to know. We have a dedicated force here.
There's right. There's a sort of a human cost in terms of workload and stress on the workforce. This is also like a huge success story. It means that chasing the grants, chasing the loans, and all the hard work that went into that, it's finally come to fruition where you actually have more money resources than you have people.
Yeah.
And that is a tremendous place to be. It may not be on a day-to-day basis in terms of stress,
Yeah.
but
Our dreams
it
come
shows
true.
how, you don't want the reverse.
Right.
And what a great job chasing down
Yeah.
money resources
Our
that would have had to come in some degree from the community.
some form. Yeah. Our total price tag for our water resiliency is 15.8 million. And there's a lot of projects behind that. And so that's what I was telling the budget committee. I said, it's fantastic that we've gotten these loans, but now we have to execute, and so we used us to be able to secure that money because prior to us having the funds, we really couldn't ask for the body. We had to make sure we got the funds.
You've been running a 4-minute mile.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's okay, but you can't run a 4-minute mile.
That's
forever.
exactly it.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
Anyway, I was very grateful that they obviously recognized
Yes,
that.
that's good.
And
That's
so,
excellent.
and you're talking 5 to 8 years. I mean, this is not a short project. And so 5 to 8 years of this. And not just the water resiliency, it's our master plan. I mean, we've been able to knock out a lot of master plan projects. And as one of the council members mentioned is that community's concern when we first did master plans is we spent a tremendous amount of money getting a pretty binder all put together with projects that would never go anywhere. It's on the shelf. And that hasn't happened. I mean, Public Works has executed these projects and the Public Works Committee has made that a priority to stay focused on that. And they have chosen the ones that they feel are the priority projects and we've gone after it. And so that ball has to keep moving. We don't want to ignore that with the water resiliencies. We're trying to get the community prepared. It's got to be both.
Yep.
And so that's where the resource request comes from. So,
And I also, I think you're right on point there in hiring someone that has the skills and duties of doing the reporting that goes
Yes.
with this. It's great to say, I've got all this money, but, and it's sort of free, but it's not. The burden, especially on the federal side of reporting up, is substantial. And if you have somebody that's good at that, and is dedicated, then it allows the people out in the field to do their work and let
Right.
that person
yeah,
feed the elephant.
exactly. Yeah. And that's where the engineering aspect of the job comes in. They don't necessarily have to come to the table with a PE. But if they worked in the engineering world, they understand what the infrastructure is that we have out in the ground. Otherwise, if they're just a project manager and they're just tracking schedules and all that, they still have to go to the field leads and say, how does this work? Why does this look like this? Why aren't we doing it? How come this is failing? And that's where it takes Trevor and the guys away from what they're supposed to be focusing on to be able to be the subject matter expert. If we bring somebody in that's had that experience, even if it's another municipality,
Yes.
they understand the water infrastructure, they understand the sewer, and they will be able to do this on their own. They may ask a few questions in a staff meeting, but they don't need these guys to be their subject matter expert, you
No,
know?
it's just like, like what I call tribal knowledge.
Yes,
Cannot beat it.
yes,
Sort of like, with Daniel,
yes,
30 some years.
exactly.
I mean, you're not going to
Yeah.
replace that. So it's something.
And the guys out in the field, they need a break. I mean, they're just being pulled 1,000 different directions and they've got their normal stuff that they're working on. So this will be a blessing and it will allow us to execute exactly what we have committed to do.
And I don't know if it's the right time, but with Trevor, I was going to ask you if we've had an increase in ion water participation or if that's still about the same.
32%.
35.
35,
We're
good.
at 35%. And
We want 50.
yeah,
Okay,
we're
well,
shooting for 50. I let the budget committee know that, kind of benchmarked us against Hermiston and said, this is where Hermiston is hung, right at that 5% for a long time. And this is and the current percentage is 100% the water team interfacing with the customer as they're changing these modules. So once we get Kelsey's position replaced, I promise not to burn the next person out. We'll do one of the media blasts and we'll open City Hall and have a 2-hour time frame where people can come in and we help them get set up, get accounts set up, show them how to work it. And we'll have a help desk where people are not here. If they're second homeowners, they don't want to come in or can't come into City Hall, they can call a number.
Great.
We'll talk them through it over the phone. And I think that'll bump our percentage up to 50%. And I let them know we would be bringing the draft ordinance to them in the June meeting that sets a revised expectation relative to water conservation, the residents' responsibility now that they have this tool in place, and really recognizing the, payback or return on that investment that the city's made.
Well, that would increase skin in the game because everybody would feel like they're part of it.
Yeah. I asked how many of them were signed up for Ion Water. They're signed up for Ion Water.
I did. I got my ghost. And I went, okay,
I thought that was a good time to put them on the spot.
absolutely.
Definitely.
They gave me the money. I wanted to make sure they were invested,
Oh, yeah.
No, it was a great meeting. I really appreciated their time and their questions. And I felt really good about it when we walked away and how it wrapped up yesterday. So that's
Super.
pretty much it. Anything I forgot to update that you guys have a question about? Anything in the budget you have questions about?
I don't think so. I mean,
It's almost a non-public works question. Is Ecola Creek Road open? Can you get to the park now?
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I live right there. I mean, it's nonstop.
Okay.
It was good. It was good. It was not bad, but it's.
I've had some out-of-state acquaintances say, we're going to be there. What can we see? And I don't want to say, well, you need to get up to Ecola Park and then
No, it's open. No, it's definitely open.
Okay, good, good.
Oh, and April 1st. It wasn't April Fool's. They said it's open, really.
Yeah,
Good enough.
Remember that?
no joke.
No joke.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Get it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, go to the order. I have one subject that,
Want to talk Public Works Week?
oh, yeah, I thought you may have included
So
that.
the
Okay.
luncheon is today.
Yeah,
So when you guys get done with your tour, come on back, starts 12:30.
12:30.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 12:30 be back.
and you're gonna cook the dogs.
Yeah, or the dogs are going on without you.
Understood.
Okay.
Extend an invite to the council and budget committee. We're not allowed to serve food to the public, so I asked them not to extend the invite beyond that. But the crew will be in. I told them, take a break from patching and come on in.
Is it right here or?
It's right here in
Yeah, very good, very good.
council chambers. We'll have it set up where everybody can sit down and enjoy their dogs. And that's it. When you see the guys out and about, give a holler to them, tell them
And
thanks.
is
I
this-
posted something on
Is this a
Facebook.
national event?
It's national.
Okay, very good.
And so across the country this
No,
week,
no,
they're celebrating Public Works. Mhm.
it's very good.
Thanks,
Okay.
Janae, for getting the dogs and the buns and everybody signing up to bring supplemental size. I appreciate that. And thanks you guys for how hard you worked this year on all the projects you helped us with. I was telling Carol and Probst, because I stay in touch with her, that we've got an outstanding Public Works Committee right now. So I really, really appreciate how you guys work together and just the support you've given me and my whole team. So thank you very much.
Great,
Thank you.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.
Okay, now.
Is that enough for the good of the hors d'oeuvre? Okay. We'll move. Very good of the order then.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. One thing I wanted to bring up to mainly Trevor, I think, is they took down a large tree on Ross. And in doing so, in the back of this home, they took in about 7 cubic yards of fill material. It was just wood chips and things so that the machinery wouldn't get stuck back there. Well, I think in doing so, what they've done is redirected some of the springs that are back there, and they're popping up right on Hills Lane. And it's been like a creek almost running through there since that occurred, and especially with the wet that we've had. I don't know if you want to run down a
Taking a look at it, and I've involved Jeff Adams.
couple of weeks or,
I've involved Jeff Adams. The wood chip material is placed for erosion control, semi-erosion control to allow them to access that tree. Coaster Construction is going to be putting up some silt fence. If they haven't already done it, they're on board to do it. They don't have a contract yet to build the house, but the homeowner is going to allow Coaster to go in there and put some erosion control. But when I was back there, I didn't see anything of concern of redirecting water or anything like that. But I'll stop by again.
Good on Hills.
Take it.
it's just more water than I've ever seen, and it's washboarding that road pretty
That's good.
significantly and potholing it also because of the amount of the water that's running down there. And I know,
Yeah, we fought mystery pop-ups,
Yeah.
water issues
okay.
several times in that area, but I'll stop by and take a note.
Yeah, it's right in front of Nancy's house, a couple of spots there.
Nancy sent me an email last week on that. Trevor was off Friday, so I pulled the map showing the wetlands and where the streams were. And I walked Ross and I walked Hills, looking at all where that was. The day that Nancy shot me the email, we got 2 inches of rain.
Oh,
So you have to appreciate that when we have days where we have a high amount of rain in a short period of time, and that particular day it was all day, it charges those springs. And the house that's just next door to Nancy, I could see where it's on stilts to begin with, but I could see where water had raised and their little overflow pond had actually breached, and she's on the downside of that. That's what was coming out into the street. And when I walked it, it was still trickling down, even though the water had gone back into the ground, it soaked in, the natural spring was still pushing water. And so there was nothing broken. It was a matter of just the amount of rain. Now, if you go out today, obviously it's all, soaked into the ground. Even the day I went out Friday, it was soaked in. but there was still water moving just because of the volume of rain. But like Trevor says, if they have placed material that is, directing water in a way that's hazardous to somebody's property, that's a different story. Jeff would get involved. But
So, yeah, that wasn't the case. Like Trevor said, it was just material so that they didn't get the machinery stuck and it was just erosion control.
Right.
So that, but they impacted that enough with their heavy machinery that I think maybe they've redirected some of the springs back there. I'm not saying it was in any way intentional.
Yeah.
But, there have been people that live there on Hills Lane 20 years and have never seen this. And I know we've had record rainfalls in April,
here for sure.
but even this morning, where we haven't had much rain in the last 24 hours, it's running on both sides. Like, not like a creek really, but it is flowing.
I'll put eyes,
And there are 2 or 3 different areas where it's bubbling up underneath.
I'll put eyes on it again today.
Anyway,
They may have to just redistribute some of that material so that it's not doing that. I sent Nancy the map so she could see the path of all those streams out there and the actual footprint of the wetland. And so she, obviously, when you see the map, you can see, and I can show you a copy of it while
I
you're.
gotta be real careful on the private property side of things.
sure.
Like a vampire, I can't cross it unless I'm invited. So I'll involve Robert, I'll bring Robert out there and we'll set eyes on it again. My main thing was erosion control, basic erosion control, not building yet, not excavating yet,
Yeah.
but we'll set eyes on it again.
And when they take a tree out like that, I mean, obviously the tree sucks up a lot of water.
Mhm.
So with it not being there, you're going to see some
Yeah,
residual
that
impact from that.
may have contributed.
And so, if that's in the footprint of their house, I mean, they have a right to remove it. And so once it's gone, you'll see a change in the pattern of those streams. But again, that's in Jeff's wheelhouse. It's not Public Works.
Okay, very good. Just
And
wanted
it
to-
kind of.
Now, when I walked it, Steve, I didn't see any potholes out there. I walked both Ross and Hills.
Well, there's washboarding out there and there's potholes this morning anyway, so.
I'll take a look at that. I know the guys, they're patching today, but it's time for them to do their gravel street.
We're gonna be going through town and just kind of buttoning up things and tightening up things. That's what we like to do in the summertime. We don't like putting fresh gravel down when it's pouring down rain because we lose all of our minus.
Right.
Yes.
So that's why we have
Try
to
to do it
just,
after the rains have stopped, but before it gets too dry that it creates a dust bowl. So there's that sweet spot. And so they're.
we got several
getting that
streets on
now.
the list.
And somewhat related, about a month ago, roughly, right on Ecola Park Road, there was a lot of washout coming down on the ditch side.
Yeah,
It's quite a bit now. Is that just from the rain, the
It's from the
atmosphere?
rain.
Okay, very good. Atmospheric river. Thank you. So, okay, and as long as it's just natural, I can,
Yeah. And I'm sure you guys have heard it, like anybody else, but April in the state of Oregon
yes.
was record-breaking rain. And so we're going to see some anomalies like this at times like that. And honestly, there's only so much we can do about it. When everything is overwhelmed and drains are surcharging and whatnot, I mean, we just have to maintain the situation, sometime with sandbags, sometime with, pushing gravel around to direct water. But that's about all we can do. There's nowhere we can put it when everything's overwhelmed. And luckily, we don't see this very often, once in every 10 years, but when it does, it's pretty chaotic. And there's just not a lot we can do.
Well, the way I look at it, it's better than fires and tornadoes and hurricanes.
I agree with you.
Earthquakes.
I look
And
at the
earthquakes.
rest of the nation, it's like, yeah, I'll take the rain.
take the rain.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. One of the things that I wanted to mention concerning Jan's comments on the good of the order is the only discretion that city management had on that, and maybe you understand this also, is to increase the amount of money that they can relieve. I hate to see any businesses, local businesses, go out of business because they have a water leak that didn't impact the city's sewer system, but they're charged for it anyway. And it could be if it's a business, it could be a large water line. So it could be a large amount of money. And that's the only part that they had the discretion over. At least that was the intent.
So are you saying then that the procedure would remain the same? for
Yes.
people? They would still come through you guys
Yes.
and you would see it and then you would give it to Karen
Yeah.
or,
It-
or,
Well, the recommendation would come from staff that, to the Public Works Committee, that we either allow or disallow for the relief on the water leak. And then that would still be public information. So then they would say, and we also recommend that instead of the $1,000 threshold maximum, that say it's 2,000. We say 2,000 and they'll give us some reasons why. It will be discussed here. If there's any discussion necessary and it will be voted on and it will be public record.
Right. We kind of wanted to have an exception there in case someone very unusual happened, that we had that clause in there. But basically not a blank check.
Okay, anything else? Very good. Let's adjourn.
So you guys are gonna adjourn to the water system tour?
To the water
It's
system
on the
tour.
Record completely?
Yes,
And then come back for the good of the hors d'oeuvre.
that's right.
12:30?
What?
Yes.
12,
Come back for the potluck.
the potluck.
Or yeah.
Yeah, I'm just teasing.
Right. And then
There might be hors d'oeuvres.
now the water, where do we meet for the water